You know what? This was, to me, the greatest beat-up of all time. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Eddie and Jimmy. Thanks to Hyundai and our great friends at Fiji Airways. And by the way, flying every day from Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane straight into Nandi. 3-hour little stop over there if you want to. Or even better, get off the plane altogether and go and have some time in the sun before, bang, into Vancouver, into Honolulu, into LA and into San Francisco. Hello, Jimmy Bartel. Welcome aboard, mate.
G'day, Ed. That sounds exciting. That trip might have to look at something around the bye rounds because we're nearly at the bye rounds again.
Hey, look quickly because I was talking to Paul Scurra and they have had record, can you believe this, record people coming to Fiji off the back of this show and also of Footy Classified. They can't believe how many people have decided, right, okay, overseas going into Europe or going to America might even be too hard. Let's go up there. Fiji, fantastic. Everything, as I said, from you can camp if you want or you can go to places like Kokomo. And I've got some details for you on some of the great resorts up in Fiji. So, mate, jump on board and get up there. It is absolutely fantastic. You can do it with all your One World points. And they are the friendliest airline in the world. Food is fantastic. And then, as I said, if you want to then head over to America, go to Disneyland or anything else, bang, over you go.
Bang. Well, Eddie, let's get into the football. It is Star Wars Day today, May 4th. May the 4th be with you.
Thank you.
Of course, but it's round 8. Let's kick it off.
I thought that was Ida Buttrose Day, wasn't it?
The Showdown, Eddie. This is not a this year thing, but it highlights it again, the ridiculous nature of the fixture. We won't bang on about that. It should never be as part of a double header. It should be a standalone game. But the Crowbars win by a point. Braden Cook, what a winner. After Port Adelaide nearly won it.
All right, well, let's go through it because it's a game that deserves a good analysis, let's be honest about it. And first up, all right, let's go to the fixture. Should it be a standalone game? What we're saying, obviously, is on free-to-air. Now, it's in free-to-air in South Australia, so it's a big night for the South Australians. Channel 7 said, righto, let's have the other game. The Western Bulldogs are playing up the road. And, you know, you probably at the start of the season think that's the right thing. I think that the Showdown is now a marquee game and should be... until, you know, both of them are useless and can't play anymore or whatever, you know, the vagaries of form. But, yeah, it's a game that deserves to stand alone, if you like. But my point is, I suppose, is that you could watch both games if you wanted. So the power of the remote control, power of people having a decision to make comes through. So I don't know if it needs to be force-fed. But yeah, I agree. If that game had been on Thursday night or Friday night, whichever way you want, don't forget, you know, Thursday night, Collingwood and Hawthorn had nearly 80,000 people at the MCG. It was unbelievable. So where are we putting the Bulldogs game if we take it off Friday night?
You can put it Saturday night.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
I
agree with you. I don't mind.
I'm not disagreeing.
I like a one-off game on a Thursday and a Friday. I agree with you.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the point being is, it wasn't just they finally proved the point. You know, they stand alone. They've played 59 times.
Yeah.
And they're separated by 3 wins.
Yeah, well,
Collingwood
and Carlton have been playing for over 130 years and have separated by about four wins. I think
I'm not making this
a
Collingwood discussion.
I know, but I'm just saying I do get a little bit irked is where I'm getting to when I hear Dwayne Russell and the South Australian diaspora going nuts. Oh, this is the greatest rivalry in football. And rah, rah, rah. It's a fantastic rivalry, as are many others. Geelong and Hawthorn is a fantastic rivalry.
Standalone game.
Yeah, well, exactly, on Easter Monday because they got in there and got it. The West Australian Derby is a fantastic game. Now, teams are a little bit off at the moment, but that's the ups and downs. It's not that long ago that Port Adelaide were almost going to be shelved completely. My point is, yes, let's celebrate these games for what they are, but they're not the greatest of all time. They're not all these things. I'm just Jack of the South Australians, carrying on a little bit on all this sort of stuff. Okay, I've had. You've got Bruce, you've got the McLaughlins, you've got Dwayne. You've got them all over there, and they all talk about it. Even BT occasionally goes back to his West Australian roots. We've got no Victorian commentators anymore. So, and those that are sycophantic to the northern states. So what I'm saying is I think we just need to just take it a little bit easy. So let's go back to the first point, Jim. I agree with you. It should be a standalone game.
No double headers on Friday night either.
Exactly. By the way, so go to the game. Tell me about it. What was your impressions of the game? My impressions was family friend, great friend of my son Xander's, Sammy Berry, won the medal, and it was absolutely magnificent. Well done, Sammy.
He was magnificent. He was the Bobby Boucher from the Waterboy. He was tackling everybody left, right, and centre. I think even when they were about to present him the medal, I think he was going to crash tackle the person handing him the medal. 19 tackles, but it's good for him to get some reward too, because the way he plays is he's ruthless in the contest. He's bash, crash, and sometimes it's good to have those players up in lights, not necessarily just always the highlight reel players. I'm not diminishing his game, but he does build his game on the nitty gritty, the tough stuff, the roll the sleeves up, and it was great that he was able to put up a monster game. Now, Eddie, you and I have been saying for a couple of years, we often joke about the goal line, that you can take a crowbar to someone on the goal line.
Until...
Well, it was keep your crowbars at home. The free kick, Wayne Miller turned into a non-goal after Rochelle pushing the goal square, which I still yet to see where the push in the back. It was in the side anyway.
It's in the side, which means within 5 minutes it's okay, wasn't it? Used to be.
Yeah. And then we had another ARC controversy, overturned Saligo's goal as the ball was metre above the goalpost. Looking at these angles, we can see the ball crosses the line at the top of the goalpost. It was a great night for Andrew Dillon and Greg Swan to be live at the Adelaide Oval. You just see when they put him up on camera, boo, and you could see Dills. He was giving that smile like, oh, I better just grin. Like,
well, welcome to the big time. Look, thank God they got up Adelaide in the end. Imagine if it had been another game that they had been.
Well, what did I say in our build-up? There'll be another umpire. I just got the end wrong this time. It's normally down the other end where it goes pear-shaped.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think it was a free kick anyway, did you? And
no.
I don't think it actually... This is the other thing. I mean, we don't want too many more judgment calls for the umpires, but if it doesn't have any impact on the play, i.e. the ball had gone through and wasn't going to be touched anyway, not from my couch watching it, why stick your head in and do it? It's particularly in such a vital part of the day. Anyway, whatever. If it's either a free kick or it's not, I didn't think it was a free kick.
Yeah, and just on that one, I know why they do pay it, because you can go your hardest on someone once the ball's going. You don't want any free shots on players, but you'd want to be certain.
Was there do you think there was a little, they don't have rule of the week, but was there a rule of the week? Because we saw Dean give up a double free kick. Now, his was a lot more deliberate because he pushed his opponent into the fence. But do you think there was a little bit of let's keep an eye on what's going on the goal line, for the simple reason that what we've been discussing, and that is there seems to be different rules for different parts of the game at the moment? If so, just let us know about it, and we'd all be up for it. And we go, yeah, that's fair enough. Don't push him over the goal line. Yeah,
I'm sure that as part of coaching, it's any kind of coaching, and I'm not defending the umpires, but players get coaches get coached, and then once something comes to front of mind, like it's how you review things. So if a team was really poor in tackling, what do you think the coaches are going to talk about? They're going to talk about tackling, and so what do you think the reaction is? Players are going to focus and, geez, I better go get a tackle. So I was speaking to Dean Margetts, the former umpire over in Western Australia, and I asked him, was there a rule a week? And we both actually came to the point that if you and I went for a run around the block, because you got to think you're umpiring, and I said, count how many red cars you see. And then at the end of it, they go, how many bikes did you see? You go, oh, I didn't see it. And it's pointing to what we're talking about is the fact if you've got so many rules and so many interpretations, some are going to move to the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And then some of them are going to come to the front of the mind, depending on what you've been coached that week.
Yeah, so, I mean, the old saying, a hammer only sees a nail. And but my point is this. Once upon a time, Tony Peake, when he was the head of media at the AFL, and this goes back to when I was still doing the rounds at Channel 10, so it's a long time ago, would send out on a Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday, he would send out a email, not an email, it was a fax in those days, right? A fax that would say, the umpires have had a look over the weekend's round of matches and we've determined that we have been missing on this, or a tactic has come in where players are throwing players to the ground, so we're going to be red hot on 15-metre penalties. As a result of that, down the track, we'll turn that into a 50-metre penalty. Right? We forget sometimes why these changes come about. It's usually because the coaches are doing something. So my point is, after a while, rule of the week became the usual thing that happens with us guys in the media. You go, oh, it must be rule of the week, and on it goes. So the AFL decided this was embarrassing for them. So they rescinded the idea of telling the media that it was a rule of the week, when clearly we know, to your point, that you make really well. And I think that's really enlightening what you and Dean Margetts have said there, that yes, there are emphasis. That's why you have coaches. Hey, team, we're missing out on this. Team, get in this position. Team, do this. Team, we're coming up against Carlton and their fullback pushes people over the line all the time. Watch out for it. We don't want that in the game, etc., etc. But if we actually just told everyone and took the heat out of it, then everyone would know. Not a major issue, but certainly it was 2 free kicks that very much influenced the game. The Carlton one, which was absolutely a free kick every day of the week, was ridiculous play by a young Dean, but that was the breaking point of that game. And as we know, with the who kicked it in? Or was it in Adelaide?
Saligo's one that went over the goalpost.
No, well, the one that was pushed, the push on the line. Who was that again? That
Malera kicked the ball in, and
Malera's goal, and Rochelle. I didn't think that was there, but clearly you'd have a guess and say maybe they're looking for those type of things on the goal line. And if we knew that, we'd go, don't push him.
We'll touch on Richmond in a second, but while we're sort of discussing those sort of matters, Hawthorn-Collingwood, what a belter of a game that was, finished in a draw. There's more discussion around the stand rule, not paying holding the ball. Can we spend a maximum, because I find this discussion, Ed, and I apologise, I find this discussion boring, is as soon as there's a draw, everyone uses their soapbox to, use your word, promulgate why they're the answer to everything, and so we must follow their way. Can I give my 25 seconds on it?
Go.
And then you can, if you can, keep it under a minute.
Oh, is that right? Little sledge there, is it? Okay.
No, because it's a broader sledge on the discussion, and I'm actually fueling it anyway.
Okay.
I'm contradicting myself. The draw is a result. So this whole, we need to keep playing to get a result. We've got a result. The draw actually invokes an emotion and feeling, which is emptiness. That is actually an emotion. The way you approach a game actually says a lot about player psyche and team psyche and coach's psyche, as far as, do I risk losing trying to win, or do I conserve and we put players behind the ball in general play and try and save the game? It actually is an element of the game, and it becomes an element as far as when we look at the ladder later in the year, that team's 2 points clear, or it's 2 points behind because they had a draw because they weren't good enough, or they were good enough to get the draw or weren't good enough to get the win in the 2 hours that were previously played. Discuss.
Yeah, well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, this is like red wine, white wine, or, port. Which one do you like? They're all pretty much the same, but as far as they're all wines. Okay, so let's go through it. The anomaly that happened, let's go to 2010 season for an example. So in that particular season, in home and away, you had a draw where you split the points. You had a final series where if you had a draw, you had extra time. And then you had the grand final, if it was a draw, as it was the case, you had a replay. You had 3 different ways through the course of the season in deciding what happens. So that's that. So we all lived and went through it. I must admit, I didn't mind for the 3 times in the history of the game that you have to come back and win a grand final, leaving aside the commercial benefits that were with it all. But, our game is still, there's so many decisions that are still made by journos who don't want to work. No, that's the end of the season. We're all going on holidays, etc., etc. Now, the biggest complaint about the Collingwood draw against St Kilda in 2010 was exactly that. Oh, I've booked holidays. Oh, I'm ready to go. Well, bad luck. If there's a draw, you're coming back and playing. And we all survived and got through it all. So you either to say at the start of the year, and let's have a 5-year block, that this is what we're going to do. So I agree with your point. The only thing I'd throw up is this. Now that we've got rid of the draw for the grand final and we have extra time in the finals, why don't we just go to extra time for everything? And that means that you can actually train, Jim, for something that could be a deciding factor in winning a premiership at the end of the year. I don't care one way or the other. I like what you're saying. The draw was on. You knew it was going to be a draw. It's always funny when a draw happens, isn't it? One team's sad and the other one's happy. The team that just gets up at the end or is pushing forward or defending. So that's it. But I just think sometimes, we can make it easier or harder for ourselves, or just have it, what you're saying. And I don't mind either way. If we're going to have extra time for a grand final and finals, then it makes sense to have extra time during the home and away season, and that's it. However, I don't mind having the draw. As I said, I can understand not having the draw during the final series after Essendon squealed when Collingwood drew in 1990 against the West Coast Eagles. That didn't make any sense to me at the time. They used it as an excuse. They played finals. They played a preliminary final. They could have got themselves ready. The art of coaching is preparing your team regardless of what goes on. Didn't affect, I think there was I remember there was a draw in the 72 final series. I think Richmond and Carlton out at Waverley. They seem to all survive through that period of time. There have been draws along the journey. But, again, to your point, either leave it or make the move and then let's get on with it. But, yes.
No.
The first question to Jack Ginnivan was, well, what do you think? And Jack's got his 2 bobs worth, and that's good. And he had his opinion. But really, does it have to be that straight after the game? There's so many other things to talk about. Hey, just before we go on, speaking of Jack Ginnivan, people missed the tongue-in-cheek last week that we had when I was speaking of Jack Ginnivan and I was saying he had no impact.
Did you get some feedback, Ed?
I saw some stuff. No,
actually, that reminds me, you did get some feedback, actually, from a journo.
Oh, who?
He was a little... No, he wasn't upset. It was actually a very good call regarding Scott Pendlebury and how he'd make a good...
No, Jay Clark.
I was trying to keep his name out, but
no, Jay rang me up. No, he was actually rapt that he got a mention on Footy Classified. He said he used to watch all my shows as a kid, so he was rapt that he got a mention. No, he wasn't too worried about that. That was, again, people got to take these things for... If I'm serious, you'll know about it, okay? When I'm taking the mickey and having a bit of a banter with you on a Monday morning, as is what a podcast is, it's not a newscast. The Jack Ginnivan, I thought Jack played really well again. But
I nearly guessed his stat line too, by the way, for those playing at home.
Well, I was having a good chat to his dad, Craig, after the game. We caught up down in the car park after the draw. Craig fully kitted out in his Hawthorn outfit, but it was good to catch up with him. And Guinea's one of my favourite players.
So how was the feedback for you, Ed, when he said he didn't get a kick? He won't get a kick. How was your feedback loop?
No, I didn't have worried. That was more. I just saw some comments. I don't normally read the comments on these things, but I do it. If they're having a go at me, I like to read them because I think they're quite fun. And if you're writing these things thinking you're going to offend me or upset me, don't waste your time. Although I do like your feedback, and it is great fun to see it. But please understand, we're joking. By the way, how good was the Wizard? Just on that topic.
How good's he been all year?
His last goal, the one where he hit the pack at the city end.
Yeah, a million miles an hour.
At a million miles an hour, and it was interesting to watch if you get the wide shot because Isaac Quaynor started off really well. And then Wizard started to get into his head, and you could see that. And the ball got kicked up to a one-on-one in the goal square. And Quaynor did the right thing and went up for the fall of the ball, except the punch away had a little bit more on it. Now, I can't remember whether or not the Hawthorn player hit it to the right spot or whether it was just a bit of luck. But the bottom line was Wizard positioned himself perfectly to be able to hit that ball at 100 miles an hour. He put himself into the most dangerous position. Had he gone in with Quaynor, he might have got it, would have been tackled, or been 2-on-2. He put himself in the perfect position for a front and square rover and did it twice during the course, or 3 times during the course of the game, where he just hit. And then he used, what was a physical negative, that he's a little short ass. He used that to perfection because they can't tackle him, and it got through and kicked the goal. He was just sensational. So that's beautiful roving.
That set-up play to lead to the goal right on the siren where he came through the pack, handballed it over the top. And big Bill Frampton's been in good form, but that's not in his job description. Like where he's got handballed it over him and he's zipped around him to outside the boundary, they then come back in and go, oh, poor Bill. That is I've been in those situations plenty of times as you go, oh, no, he's going to get behind me.
Bill should have grabbed him and thrown him over the fence.
I don't think he could get close enough. He was gone before he knew it.
Do something, tackle him by the legs. I don't know, give away a professional free kick. There was a couple of seconds left and he was 60 out. Don't let him get past you. But anyway, it doesn't matter. He was great.
Big Bill's in good touch, by the way.
Bill's, I love Billy Frampton. He's fantastic.
Kicks the ball well for a big guy.
He has. His confidence is up too. He's playing great football. So, next week, hopefully, against your boys, the Cats, Jeremy Howe will be back, and we'll get the full complement back there again with Moore, Frampton, and also Jeremy Howe coming in the side. So we've got 3 guys who can kick the ball out of defence. I thought Collingwood's field kicking was exceptional. I thought the coaching was exceptional. I thought Hawthorn played a great game, and it was a fitting result in the end. I reckon a draw.
It was a good game of footy.
Either side would have been stiff. Everyone's talking about Darcy Moore. Give me your thoughts on Darcy Moore's last bit of play. I thought we mucked it up with the kick out. I was screaming at the time. I think Josh just needed to hit somebody, Josh Dacos, and get it back, and the game was over. That's where Collingwood's been so good over the last few years. They didn't quite get that one right. And, we had our chances. Should have been hit to the boundary line. So once Dakes kicked it up the line, that wasn't his fault. Get it over the line. Don't let somebody mark it. And then when it did come in, one of the two of you, Maynard or Moore, take the mark, and then when it hit the ground, the other Moore did well, got in position, got the front and square, and he got a free kick. Well played.
Yep, some skill execution stuff, but I think Collingwood, and especially under Craig McRae, got enough brownie points in how they close out games, whether they're just up or just down. It's nearly close to a third of the games that McRae's been involved in has been decided by under 10 points.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. There's like a fascinating number of the amount of close games that they've been in under Craig McRae. Hey, Eddie, an Oz kick parent, not Richard, took a shared photo of the Brisbane Lions private whiteboard listing each Essendon player's strengths and weaknesses. As we always do, if we can't think of any cool, catchy name, we just chuck Gate on the end of it.
Yeah, I know.
Whiteboard Gate. A lot of it discussed strengths and weaknesses of players, with Langford and Merritt being described as selfish. Jackson Pryor's strength was his girlfriend. I feel him there because definitely our partners are much better than us. So as a clear strength.
Does everyone see that as a joke? Anyway.
Yeah, former teammate and things like that.
Yeah. And good call.
Yeah. Look, I can understand Fagan's disappointment. It got out. Every club goes through strengths and weaknesses of players. Probably don't put it. Some might even still have a whiteboard, but also you open it up because that's how clubs get funding. They become community centres, and there's people coming in and out of footy clubs. So it's probably just a good bit of awareness for the Lions that maybe get the old curtain that just comes down over the top and make sure it's all covered up. But
wipe it off, or shut the windows, or put a curtain in there, or lock the door to your mission control. All the above. You know what? This was to me the greatest beat up of all time.
Correct.
Beat up of all time.
I'll tell you what you can do though. If you're the Essendon coaches, you could grab a couple of those individuals on the board and go, well, that's actually the football perception of you.
Can I go back in time?
Do you want to do anything about this? Do you agree? Do you disagree? It can actually become a good coaching tool for the Bombers.
I think I've become the football almanac these days. I've been around a fair while, and I did start when I was a little 13-year-old in the media. Did you notice that Brad Scott didn't have much problem with it? Because do you remember going back in time that the Brisbane Lions had psychiatrists working with them? This is back in 2001, 2, 3, 4, during their three-peat. And what they used to do is they were handed dossiers every single week, on the mental stability of their opponents. And it got out that this was happening. And I remember at Collingwood we found out, and for example, they said, Paul LaCuria, go up and shake his hand and tell him he's a good bloke, and how's his brother going, and his sister and his mum and dad, and it's a beautiful day today. Because Paul is such a gregarious and happy-go-lucky guy that it takes the fire out of him. If you go up and punch him in the arm, or stand on his foot, he'll get focused on the game. So they had that. They had other guys that they went to that were quite. Put it this way: it made what was on that whiteboard look like it should have been handed out to the Auskick kids. They said they'd mentally disintegrated players. Brutally got into them about what you do to them. And don't forget, remember the Cray brothers went up to Nick Rewell that time when he had the bung shoulder.
Worked his shoulder out.
And worked his shoulder out. We called that game on Nines footy with my great mate Dennis Committee, which we'll get to in a moment. That's why I'm in Perth today. So for me, one, it's that what was on that whiteboard is nothing more than what every supporter yells over the fence. I get perplexed sometimes with the media, Now, for the media, they need a story, and anything will do. All right, so you've got to have it, and here we are talking about it on our podcast. So, yep, it's bought us a couple of minutes to fill as well. But sometimes the disconnect for what happens inside football and even at local clubs and where the media is gets a little bit confused. And as soon as you mention Auskick, suddenly it becomes, it's about the kiddies and all that sort of stuff. This is the pinnacle of football. This is kill or be killed. Right? If I knew something about any player that could give my players an edge, my goodness, I was straight in with it. Same for you guys. How did you go playing on blokes that you knew had... I mean, your psychiatrists, your coaches were into it, former teammates, that's what they do. Get up and tell us about so-and-so. I remember there was a huge story once about Ricky McLean back in the 70s when he went from Carlton to Richmond, and the Richmond blokes were all a bit shit scared of big bad Vinnie Waite. And Ricky McLean came over and said, no, don't worry about him. Get into him. He's not as tough as you think. And that changed completely the whole mindset of Richmond Carlton games in those early 1970s, which Richmond won 2 grand finals. So that's just part of it. That's exactly what it is. I mean, that's no different to saying, watch out, so-and-so, he's only got a left foot, can't kick it with his right, or vice versa, or he's no good overhead, or he'll go to the front of the pack, etc., etc. Now, I want to know from you, because you've actually read these things, what happens?
I don't think we ever got a document like that, but it was always discussed anyway. When you do your line meetings, I remember different times. Let's use an example. Brendan McCartney was the midfield coach at the time, and so you'd have your 6 to 8 who would likely to play the bulk of the minutes through there, and you'd sit down and you'd watch a bit of footage and you go, right, what do we know about each of these guys? But it was none of it was like that. None of it was personal. It was like,
well, that's a Brisbane tradition now for 25 years. They have had a quarter century tradition of doing exactly that. And there's a lot goes on at Brisbane. They're heading up there in the hills, up in Queensland. They're in blissful isolation, and they are killers. And that's why they get into these positions where they win 3 premierships in a row and get themselves, if they have again. They play a really great game of football, but clearly they have got a strong mental edge that they deliver into their players. And I just thought we got a bit of a sneak peek. I was fascinated by it, but not surprised.
And they're going beautifully. Certainly took Essendon to the cleaners. The Demons, most of them tipped the D's to finish bottom 4, which is pretty fair. New coach, turnover of the list, but they're fun, exciting. Put on over 100 points against the Swans up there at the MCG. It was a great game of football. It was up and back the whole entire time. But people are going, is this a sugar hit? I think they've actually got a bit more. I think they've got a bit more than a sugar hit. Their senior players are playing well, which is very helpful when you've got some new, young, emerging players, and as well as you've got guys in their prime as well, like Cozzy Pickett, who's absolutely in his prime. Max Gawn's prime's been going now for 10 years, it feels like. The D's, I don't think they're a top 6 side, but I definitely got them in that 6 to 10. They've gone from a side that we probably had clearly outside the 10 at the start of the year to they're more than good enough to be in that 6 to 10 bracket. Which
just goes to show sometimes a change is as good as a holiday. Change the coach, get rid of some of the negatives within the club, whether it was mindset. I mean, Petrarca's playing great football for the Gold Coast, but clearly he was finished at Melbourne. He didn't like anything about Melbourne after his injury and the way he was treated. Clary the same. He needed to get out of there. And May, his time was up as well. So the new coach comes in. Interesting. There's still this residual with Paul Guira to be sorted out. But I think that's now he's far enough out of the club for them to be able to circle the wagons. But that's going to go until they get the compensation claim sorted out. That'll still keep going for a while. There's a little bit to be factored into that.
Can I get your quick thoughts on that? I know there's lawyers at 10 paces, but we haven't spoken since then because it happened pretty much during the week. Your thoughts on that process from Melbourne?
Look, it's as simple as this. There can be elements to why this all happened, but there was just a complete disconnect between the president and the chief executive, and had been building for a while. I was aware of that there had been some issues between the two. They tried to work it out. I know that they sat down and had meetings about procedures, even with talking to people in the media, etc., etc. There was a disconnect. Paul Guerra, I don't believe, believes that the Caulfield thing, if it happens, is going to take a long, long time. It's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of focus, and may not be as good as other options. Melbourne's board is hell bent. Jeff Paws is the vice president. He's made it his position in life to get this up. Whereas Guerra decided and had spoken, I believe, to the players, and they were very keen to get to Waverley. And that might have been just sitting there for a little while, but now Richmond are trying to get in there as well because they've got a period while they fix up Punt Road, so that would knock them back. The players just don't want to go to Casey, and I think that's where Paul Guerra's mindset was. And one that doesn't get a mention, but one that I'll throw into the mix is that the Port Melbourne ground is just there. That I would be, if I was the AFL, I'd be doing a deal with Port Melbourne because they've got the Old Australia Post facility next door, which the council has bought. Now, to me, that should be a fantastic training ground. It should be the home ground for women's football, and it should be the under-18s centre. There's even some talk late last year, and I'll declare an interest. I was a little bit involved in this, Jimmy, that maybe it was an option to merge the two great sides. Both teams wear red and blue, both sing It's a Grand Old Flag. One plays in the VFL, one plays in the AFL. You'd be in the city limits, if you like. It's a pretty good demographic for the Melbourne Football Club, one to consider. However, that's up to the Melbourne Football Club. They are heading to Caulfield. That's where their number one aim is. There's a bit to be had if you read the weekend papers about the negotiations to continue there. So Paul Guerra, his mindset was, why don't we go and, bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Let's take Waverley, set ourselves up there. There was some feeling that they'd be taking over the leftovers from Hawthorn. Don't know why that would be. It would just follow their path, if you like. Go there, set it up, live there, win premierships, then go to the promised land eventually when it's there. So there was all that going on. But at the end of the day, Jim, Stephen Smith and Paul Guerra didn't like each other.
Pretty fair.
And the president and the CEO have at least got to have a working relationship. And that's where it's at.
Also reckon if Cookie had his time again on the press conference, he probably doesn't lead with, we need one with football experience. And the guy coming in, I don't know anything about him, but he doesn't have football experience. So it's probably not the thing that you lead with at the press conference.
Look, I think in the end, the execution was badly done. What under Xander McGuire for breaking the story, and then breaking the story that Brian Cook was going to be the interim. And then I think he had another piece to it as well. We had on Footy Classified. His dad sprung into action and got the story of who the new CEO is going to be. And he has been... He's probably the most credentialed or best credentialed CEO of an AFL football club coming in. So, he might not have the football experience. And I don't buy into that necessarily. I think if you've got the right experience... But if you've got the right people around you, and Steve Smith has got football experience. He was the chairman of the MCC as well, so he knows the ins and outs, and he's well regarded by people. So that's up to them to make that decision. But yeah, Cookie underlining it probably wasn't the right thing necessarily, and there was a couple of other things there that if you scratch the surface a little bit didn't stand up either. So I think the main thing for Melbourne now is stop leaking against each other. Come up with a suitable severance package and everyone move on. I think Paul Guerra's...
don't drag this out.
Paul Guerra's 7 months. He might not have got on with his CEOs and things, but he did enough there to suggest he did a good job. That they couldn't work together is human nature and is as good a reason as anything, but now move on. You've got the new CEO coming up. You've got Brian Cook in there. You've got a team that's playing good football. There's a bit of blue sky around Melbourne Football Club. Now just get on with it.
Carlton Football Club.
Yeah. What do you want me to smile or cry?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, now let's get. Let me ask you.
I don't know why we should be upset and disappointed. Like they are what they are. Like it's the old. I'm not referring to them as clowns, but it's the saying. It's like don't get upset if you go to the circus and you see clowns.
Yeah. So can I put this to you, Jim? This is the pertinent question, I think. Coming back on what we just spoke about with Melbourne, with a change is as good as a holiday. Sometimes you can be there long enough and it changes. We've seen it happen over the years. Nathan Buckley was an excellent coach at Collingwood. He left. The changeover for Craig McRae was at a good time and it worked for Collingwood. We've seen it at Melbourne. Stephen King coming in. It was just time for that move to be made and a number of other moves to be made at Melbourne. And this is probably another one that we just spoke about there, that the board want to get everything in line. Better to pull the Band-Aid off early than to let it fester. So the question is, there's no chance in the world that Michael Voss will coach Carlton next year. Do you go, right, let's get it to the bye round? Yep. Or do you say, no, let's take this through? And I reckon this was Graham Wright's thoughts from the start of the year. There's no point sacking somebody, paying for two coaches and not getting the right person. I would think that Rob Priestley, in his position as Carlton president and the head of JP Morgan, is a very sophisticated person in business. Graham Wright has been around a long time and was the guy who hired Fly McRae at Collingwood and passed on Michael Voss, who I think finished fourth in that selection process. Now, I'd bet London to a brick that he is well down the track on who he wants to coach Carlton next year. And Davies is there as well. So really what you need to get to now is, once you get to probably the bye round, what do? Do you say, righto, let's just change things up and we put, Josh Fraser or somebody comes in as an interim coach? If the person who you want to have coaching, let's say, I'll make one up, Paul Roos, let's say Paul Roos or Ken Hinkley or Horst Longmire or Adam Simpson, maybe one of them. You might say, okay, if you're going to be the one and we're ready to go, in you come, coach the back half of the year, play the kids, have a good look, have a look at a few different things and use this as a start to the pre-season for 2027. That would make a bit of sense to me. But if they haven't got anybody lined up, then they're better off keeping Michael Voss, in my opinion.
I tell you what is fascinating, and looking ahead at the fixture, and the silly little man might correct me here. Round 13, Essendon play Carlton.
Yep.
Potentially both being 1 and 12.
Yeah.
Then
Carlton will win that. Should win that by the best part of 5 to 7 goals.
Well, this is my point. If there's a bad loss to either side, and I think Carlton's going to the bye, can you just double check whether Essendon's going to the bye? Mm-hmm. If you have a bad loss against one of your other big Melbourne clubs, which people would say that, most premierships ever, those two teams, going into a bye, I think there might be an off-site somewhere where we get some sandwiches ready. Essendon's buys round 15, but I think that will be, round 13 game is fascinating.
If Essendon beats Carlton, Vossi just pack the bags up and go. Yeah,
that's what I mean, that round
because you've got there is another side to this, and that is all those people who sit around the outside, your members. So you can sort of take them along as long as you can. But if they've got to that stage, you'd have to make the jump, I would have thought, and then you buy yourself some time with your members as well. And you go, okay, we have got a plan. We couldn't talk about it here, but here's where it's at. So
that's why I reckon that round 13 game's fascinating.
So if they are doing a deal with Longmire, Hinkley, Simpson, I don't know why I threw Paul Roos. I put him in as a blind to start with, and then I got actually into specifics. But let's say it's one of those three. Then you probably as well to do it then, I reckon.
There might be someone who is residing west of Icon Park.
Yeah.
Might have had a... You know how we said there's things that happen at Gather Round?
Yep. Are we saying Bevo? Or are we saying Chris Scott?
No, it's just saying west of Icon Park. I know that's not very specific.
Oh, well, let's go west of Icon Park. That's all the South Australian teams, the West Australian teams, Western Bulldogs and Geelong.
I'm going to use an AFL term here. Someone who's highly regarded.
Yeah, Chris Scott, you're saying. Yeah.
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
Where's Geelong south of Icon Park?
Is it?
Yeah, actually, you said it might as well be 40 million miles away because you said Geelong, you might as well be on Jupiter.
Well, come on, just tell me. But just who?
No.
Well, throw the name up.
No, I can't throw the name up.
Okay, just because I'm actually sitting in Perth, so I'm as far west as you can be from Icon Park.
You won't be the next coach of Carlton Football Club. I'll give you the tip.
What teams?
Even though you gave an inspirational speech to Collingwood and you've given a speech to Carlton.
Undefeated since I spoke to them.
You're in Perth for a good reason.
Yeah, I am. I'm here for Dennis Committee's memorial today. Yeah, so... It's going to be over at the Optus Stadium, and I was actually there. I went to the footy on Saturday. I came over, I had some meetings over here, so I was actually at the Richmond game, which was amazing because it was the anniversary of the 2026 win, so they had all the stars there, and then all the older guys were there as well because it was 40 years of the West Coast Eagles. So you can imagine what it was like. I was in Nigel Satley's box. I was actually sitting by myself and got invited up at half-time into one of the boxes there. And so very kind of Nigel Satley and all the team. And they're all up there, Trevor Nisbet and...
the 2006 Eagles, beautiful.
Yeah, all the guys there. And Russell Hobbs, who was the president in 2018 when they knocked us off for the grand final. Always reminding that he started life as a Collingwood man, so that was... we always have a bit of fun. But I was talking with Glenn Jakovich and Bluey McKenna, Don Pike. They're all up there. So imagine what the last 5 minutes was like watching the game with those guys trying to get the win up. And... So they were bitterly disappointed. Had their chances. They actually had some... Waterman missed that shot from 35 directly in front. Had he kicked that, I reckon they were just about home. But the Tigers... How
good was Dersmer's left foot on the run that late in the game after running 40 metres? That was extraordinary.
Well, it was just in front of me, and he ran so far, but he set them... It was like watching the store gift. He was the back marker, and he just loped, and he had this magnificent gait. His stride pattern was almost twice as long as everyone else's, and he went past them, took it, didn't break stride, looked up, steadied, and then kicked that left foot goal. It was absolutely poetry in motion. It was beautiful play, and Harley Reid had a good game as well. But gee, they've got some upside there. Having said that, the Tigers with the team, I think they were pulling people out of the crowd to play, were fantastic.
Oh. And well done to Noah Bolter. I know he's copped a whack, a deserved whack at times, but you've also got to give them...
Gave a couple of whacks as well.
I didn't make that reference. I walked into that one. And so did somebody else. I'm not meaning to do this. Well done, Noah Bolter was the dot point of my PowerPoint presentation. Well done, Noah Bolter in the big moments, and Seth Campbell. Eddie, there's a bit of fixturing stuff going on. Sydney is set to be the AFL primetime darlings. That makes sense. They play attractive football and they're on top of the ladder.
Yep.
The AFL has told clubs expecting to confirm the next set of fixtures after round 9 next week, also considering whether they'll reveal all fixtures from 16 to 23 or stagger them in 2 blocks to allow them some flexibility. The Swans in the marquee time slot, so I think that's a no-brainer. So the man in Canada's got that one right.
Yeah, well, just whatever it is. It's put the good teams in. It's an interesting one, Jim. You know that I've promulgated the idea of everyone playing everyone once and have four what I call exotics. Okay, so exotic number 1 is round 1, where I would have round 1 where you have... Let me go back because I had these conversations yesterday, and they're a bit upset over in Perth that they've been downgraded after 1 year with the state of origin.
The state of origin, yeah.
They're not happy, and I agree with them. So I would have thought that next year, particularly because we're going to start the season late because of the sesquicentennial test.
Oh, look at the smile on your face.
You could actually have a proper 2-week state of origin series, or over 1 week, but 2 weekends, if you know what I mean. And so that's the practice matches you can have. And if you had everyone playing, it could be great, and build it into something. And it's another product for TV. We need to find more product, and footballers play football for a living. Okay, then you could have your break, and then you get into the season. You might even have a practice match. Get into the season proper. Now, I've said this for a long time. Round 1 should be Fremantle versus Port Adelaide, the Battle of the Dockers. And that got a good hearing over here yesterday in some discussions I was involved in. And then you have West Coast versus Adelaide, so the sort of traditional silver tails, if you like, of both cities, the traditional teams. Then you have, and the original teams. Then you have Sydney versus Brisbane in a city of origin, if you like, and GWS versus Gold Coast. What that does is that preserves the derbies, the bridge battles, the Q clashes, and the showdowns. Okay, so that way those teams all get 3 big games to start their seasons, and in Melbourne, everyone plays everybody in Melbourne. It also means that in every market you can go to the footy and see your team, basically, other than the 2 teams who would alternate in the west and in the north. Okay, so we would probably end up with about 500,000 people at that round, and that would put paid to any worries about the publicity that they get in the NRL going to Las Vegas. So that's one exotic. The second exotic is gather round, which I would do a separate draw for that. I'd make that actually a draw. I think that'd be fantastic.
Make it an event, yep.
Yeah, make the coaches. I mean, and you sort of rig the draw a bit by putting the seating so you don't have Adelaide versus Port
on
Adelaide.
either side. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and you don't have Collingwood, Carlton, etc. So you do all that, and you set that up. So that works. Then you've got your rivalry rounds. That's when you have your derbies in Perth and your showdowns, and that becomes something really sensational. Back to your original point about having a showdown as a standalone game. You can actually do that because it makes sense. And then that's when you have, and you can rotate the Melbourne teams, if you like, around, let's say, the big 4, Richmond, Carlton, Collingwood, Essendon, and then you have the other teams, or you could bring teams in if need be. Hawthorn and Geelong is such a good game now. So you want to keep that on Queen's birthday, but you might have that as a return game, etc., etc. You work it out, whatever the way it works out. So you keep all your main games and you get those 2 rivalries. Now, here's the bit that I think we should get to at some stage. I've said this over a long period of time, and maybe in the back of my mind it was because I'm a big-time follower of Scottish soccer. I'm a mad Glasgow Celtic man. And for the first time ever in my life, and may God not strike me down, I'm barracking for Rangers tonight. They play Hearts. If Rangers beat Hearts, Celtic go to the top with 3 games to go, and they all play each other. You know how that works, mate? Because they have a split. What they do is they split the competition in half at the tail end of the season, and what they do is that the top 6, I think, is 6 or 8, play each other, and the bottom 8 play for relegation and spots in Europe, etc. Or if they're relegation, the top 6 are playing for the championship, spots in Europe, etc., etc. And you know what? It works. So if we did that over the last 4 weeks, we get the same amount of games or even more. The good teams are playing each other. The bottom teams aren't skewing the ladder because they're getting beaten by 150 points, and it works, and you can set up the TV accordingly. Back to your original point, Sydney, yeah, good. They deserve to be where they are. Should get on. They play a great game of footy. Under Brodie Grundy? I thought he played magnificently in his 250th game. And they've got a like to love. What about that young boy up forward kicking 7?
Oh, Malcolm Rosas.
Yeah.
Well, all the focus was clearly on Charlie Curnow, and that was right because he was the big superstar heading up there to the SCG where they get their big full forward, the Swans, but they've made 2 other very astute selections as far as getting Sarong from the Hawks, so he's been excellent as a wingman, and Malcolm Rosas, another dynamic small forward. Now, he's not going to kick 7 every week, and he's going to go a little bit quiet from week to week, but he does have capability to hit the scoreboard at the right time. He's a good kicker, he's dynamic, and takes a bit of pressure off Tom Papley having to be the one small forward hitting the scoreboard all the time.
I was looking at my phone there as you were talking because I was looking up a stat that I was talking to my son Xander about this morning, and he was saying that Rosas went into the game as the 2nd highest rated forward in the competition. So he's been playing good football. Just now he's just burst on the scene with 7 in a massive game on the TV against the big side, and what a game it was.
His quote on ABC radio post was classic. They asked, how'd you feel about your opponent? And he goes, I don't know who it was. He just goes, I don't know. Who was it?
He'd be no good on the whiteboard, will he?
No. Tell us about your opponent. I don't know. No one seemed to be near me, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Anyway, so back to your original question. Yeah, great that Sydney has qualified into being a side this year again that's going to be on the telly because they do. They play a great game of footy. SCG's always full, and that'll be fair enough.
Well, speaking of Malcolm Rosas, we got the Bartel Medal. Jamal's put his votes in, Ed.
Yep.
He's given 3 to Nick Dacos, 2 to Marcus Bontempelli, and 1 to Malcolm Rosas. So we've got a few votes to give away because there were some cracking games, especially at the front end of the round and then the very back end.
The 1 votes.
Luke Jackson, Aaliyah Cook, who kicked that match winner for the Adelaide Crows, Will Ashcroft, Lockie Neal is polling a lot of votes, I think, with umpires again. Could he potentially go to 3 Brownlows?
Yep.
Zach Bailey's got a big decision to make on his future regarding contract. He was
Not as big as the decision Lockie Neal will have as who turns up at the Brownlow with him.
2 votes. 2 votes. Jai Newcomb, Nick Dacos, Bolton there from Freo. Wayne Malera was good. Sherry, Wilkie, Grundy, and Cozzy. So your boy Grundy got 2 votes. You'll be happy with the 3 votes because one of your boys.
Hey, Jackie Epstein will be filthy that I got to that one before she did. Hey?
She might follow up with you. Connor McDonald got 3.
It was a joke, everybody.
Yes.
Who got the 3s?
Connor McDonald, the Bont, Hayden Young from Fremantle, Wilmot up there at the Lions, Noah Bolter, Max Holmes, Naz and Roses, and your boy Berry in the showdown. He was exceptional. So we've got a leaderboard. We've got 10 votes for Naz, 12 for Cozzy, 15 for the Bont, and 17 for Nick Dacos.
Yeah, good stuff. Good votes there. And as I said, wonderful for Sammy Berry. Because last week people were looking at the Adelaide midfield and saying it was a bit one-paced. Well, you can be one-paced if you keep getting the ball and smash your opponent 19 times in the tackles. That was absolutely sensational. Good stuff. All right, mate. We'll come back on Wednesday for further discussion and also on Thursday for our preview. But we'd love to hear from you. So get on to the email, and our email is eddieandjimmy@9.com.au. Can you ask Richard, who is our producer there, does that remain our email even though 9 is no longer part of 3AW? It's now Tapped Media?
No, it remains 4 now.
4 now. Okay. All right, we'll keep it coming at eddieandjimmy@9.com.au. Of course, I remain part of the 9 family, as do you, Jim, on Footy Classified. And good luck tonight with that as well. So get your questions into us, and we'll look forward to talking to you on Wednesday. Good on you, Jim. Great to be with you, buddy. And again, just ahead of my old friend Dennis Committee's memorial today, Bruce McAvaney is going to speak. I think Basil Zemplis will be the MC on the day. All the television stations over here are doing broadcasts from the ground, and Channel 7 naturally are going to broadcast it live over here. So a big day for somebody who was just such a wonderful person in the media, who brought something, left us with so many great lines. But also I think it's important that somebody like Dennis is remembered the way he will be today because of his contribution. He obviously was a very good footballer at waffle level, coached, etc., but it was as a broadcaster that he is remembered, and all of us who are in the broadcasting game have to bask in his glory today and remember just what a giant he was. They've named the media centre over here at Optus Stadium the Dennis Committee Media Centre, so there's going to be a permanent memorial for the great man, and as he always said, he was centimetre perfect when it came to big times in sports. Good on you, Dennis. Valet.